So hello, this is the third video. So I'm back at the end of the path that leads up to the church. Outside the door, on the other side of the door that I pointed out in that last video that I did. So this is the door, but also notice as well the amount of erosion that's happened on this wall. Sandstone is renowned for, especially poor quality sandstone, which is what this is, for just dissolving back to sand basically. I see some later work on it that seems like concrete or some kind of cement. Stronger stone there that has still got blacking from the Industrial Revolution. From, it's probably, this original wall will probably have been when the house was built, when the original house was built. So you're talking 1600s possibly, mid to late 1600s I would say, and that's probably a later brick. So that even though all this may be 150 years old, just inserted in there. Again, that doesn't really show the colour properly on this camera. That's more like the colour there. Sometimes it's a bit too blue. Once it goes into a shady bit, it looks too blue there. But anyway, so you can see how, from what I was saying before about wanting to save this tree, so he aligned the church along there just a little bit offline with this door here. If I stand here, then that path is not aligned with the path behind this door, which would take you straight to the front door at the back door at the Baroque side of the house. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go on a little walk up to the big house. Now that's the War Memorial where I started this morning, heading in that direction. So some signposts here for Harley and Elsica. Elsica is like Bourneville and Saltaire is very much a model industrial village. And then Netherhow and Greasborough and Thorpe Headley the other way. So we're on Courtworth Lane. Time now is, to be honest, I'm not sure what the time is now, but it's early afternoon anyway. Later on I'm going to walk back that way round into the village, but that's later on. Now when we actually we go down the drive to the big house, we can't see the back facade like we could from the garden centre, but we can see the later front facade. So barns are all stacked with hay. It's still very much farming land around here. So the back facade is Baroque and was completed around about 1725-ish. But it was already, that style was already, of architecture was already going out of fashion. So they almost immediately started to build the other facade, the east-facing facade, in the more fashionable Palladian style. And that was started around about 1725 and finished around about 1750. So that Palladian front is what we shall be looking at soon. Well, that's quite an old farm building. And again, you can see the different quality in the stone. And not only that, you usually find most of the erosion is towards the bottom of the building, because that's obviously, you know, this was before the days of damp-proof courses, so any moisture in the soil would just soak up, and again that would just permanently wet the rock, which means that the rock becomes, you know, that wetness, that water then freezes in the rock, expands, and then bits of the rock fall off. So you'll find most of the erosion usually at the bottom of a wall. The other thing I meant to mention as well, when I was showing you the erosion just a few minutes ago, that part of the wall faces west. So there's a lot of erosion on that side, because most of the weather in this country comes from the west. Most of the rain comes from the west and will hit that wall. The wind will blow into that wall. This is such a cute little cottage. There's more farm buildings there. And therefore you'll get most erosion on that side of the wall. It's a very simple point, but if you have a house and you know the pointing's gone on it, or one wall looks worse than another wall, chances are the wall that you're looking at that needs a lot of work is going to be the wall that faces west, or maybe southwest or northwest. So again, you can see here on this lovely little cottage where they've replaced some of the stone. Again, at the bottom, it's worse at the bottom than it is further up down here. The Union Jack flying. So this is the driveway to the big house, to Wentworth Wood House. A lot of work going off. I volunteer here as a room steward, so there's lots of work happening at the moment. The Camellia House has pretty much been completed, but won't be opening yet for another few months. There's a new car park going in. Work starting already, I think, on the stables, and we'll come to the stables in a little bit. So welcome to Wentworth Wood House. And there's a drawing of the frontage, the Palladian front of the house. And go down there. We'll see some of the work that's happening at the moment. Time we are 9 minutes. Okay. So this is all new. You can see they're still working on it. So part of this used to be what was called Lady Mabel College. When the family lost, well, they didn't lose the house really till 1979 when the last Earl died, the 10th Earl. But part of the house was the Palladian front basically was handed over to a college called Lady Mabel College from about the 1950s, I think, through to the 70s, when it became part of Hallam University, 70s or 80s, can't remember now. So the Palladium front became the college, and the family still lived in the Baroque side of the house. But there were more modern extensions built to create a swimming pool and changing rooms and whatever, and those were extended on the back of the stables, which are here, and was on this site here. And it was an awful 1960s monstrosity of a building, which thank goodness has now been wiped away. I am so happy that we're hopefully bringing the place back to its former glory. A lot more work to be done yet, but it's a 25-year plan, and we're getting there slowly but surely. So let's carry on walking down so that you can actually see the front of the stables. And I mean, there's deer around here, up in the woods and further down, and cattle grazing, so it's still kind of working farmland, quite a bit of it. So yeah, they've recently got, I think, something like £4.5 million of lottery money to start work on the stables. So that is the stables. Now, any of you who have ever been to Chatsworth and know how impressive that house is and the stables there, this is probably maybe twice as big as the stables at Chatsworth House. That's how wealthy and important the family were at the time. These stables were built by the second Marquess of Rockingham, because he was very much into gambling, into horse racing. He helped with other people, I can't remember the names of who, to create the St Leger out at Doncaster. So there was room to stable, I think, 80 horses here. But he died in 1782. I don't think he ever got to see it finished. I don't think it was ever finished till about 1790 something, I seem to recall. So I don't know if I can go right in, but let's take a little look in. Don't know if anybody's around. Gates are impressive. They do tours of this area occasionally. There you go. So all this is going to be brought back into use. So that's just a quick view of the stables, which in and of themselves could house quite a few people. Let's just walk down. So this is the edge of the garden. Behind here is a 50-acre garden. Lovely garden. A lot of work's still being done on it. Was quite overgrown, but it's really looking so much better now than what it used to do. Right from February, when you have the snowdrops and then the daffodils come out, and then all the camellias, the rhododendrons, azaleas. and then the herbaceous borders, and then obviously in autumn you've got the autumn colours. The only thing it's really missing, I suppose, is a really decent rose garden. Now, there used to be a rose garden in front of the Camellia House around the turn of the 20th century, if my memory serves me right. I would very much like them to bring that back, but I don't think they're going to do, unfortunately, because underneath that kind of grassy area in front of the Camellia House, where the rose garden used to be, they've put a ground source heat pipes, pump thingamabob. I'm not technical when it comes to things like that. To provide, economical heating for the Camellia House. So whether that means, I don't know how deep those pipes go, but maybe you could plant roses on top of it. But then again, if you need access to those pipes, if something goes wrong, then you're digging up a whole rose garden. So unfortunately, I don't know if that's viable. It's a shame if not, because I think they're missing out big time there. If I have one criticism of the garden, and that is that there is not a lot of colour in the summer. So there's wall over the top. Yeah, there's the herbaceous borders and not a lot else. Of course, it's great because there's plenty of paths for kids to run around, and they have play areas for children, etc., which is great. But for those who want to come along and enjoy it as a garden, I thought there was a really good opportunity to create a really magnificent rose garden right outside the Camellia House, protected south-facing site. They could have done a really good job there, and provided lots of colour throughout really from beginning of June really, right through till October, November time. So there's a car park that's used at the moment, and here we are at Wentworth Woodhouse. £11 million for a new roof, so the roof's all nice and secure now for another, hopefully, couple of 100 years. You can see how there's still some grime. You can see the darkness of the from the Industrial Revolution on the from all the industry on the stonework there. Although can you, because the sun's just going round, because I said this is the east front, and because we're now in the afternoon, it's kind of in shade. There aren't plans to clean the building unless they come into a huge fortune of money. I think the argument is that the grime on the building is part of the history of the building. It shows that the building has been lived in and is of a certain age and has been weathered and worn. And part of that weathering and wearing away was the couple of 100 years of the Industrial Revolution. That's not to say that if they don't get the opportunity, the money, that comes specifically, you know, if I hit the Euro Millions this weekend and, you know, win 100 million, don't know how much it would cost to clean the building up, maybe a couple of £1,000,000, you know, that I could say, here's some money, but the money must be done to clean the building up. I think they'd probably snap my hand off. But when there is so much work to do on the building, inside, especially in the wings, then it's not going to happen anytime soon, if ever. So I'm just going to walk down and just taking the view. You might be able to see just through the trees there. If I zoom in, that's the Rockingham monument, and that was built by I think the 4th Earl Fitzwilliam, who was the nephew of the 2nd Marquess of Rockingham, because he died without children. So it went from the Charles Watson Wentworth, so it went from the Wentworth family to the Fitzwilliam family. He built that as a mausoleum for his uncle, but as I said before in the first video, he's not interned in there, he's in the old Holy Trinity Church. So there's actually so it's not actually a mausoleum, because there's no bodies in there. So yeah, you've got some cows grazing. And of course there's public footpaths through here, signposts showing where you can go and where you can't go. There's private road there. So yeah, so I'm just going to stop here. There we go. You can't really see it because it's now pretty much in shadow as the sun goes round to the other side. But yeah, that's the longest frontage of any house in Europe, apparently. Quite impressive. 300 plus rooms. They say 365, one for every day of the year, but you know, I think that's a bit of a myth. But yeah, at least 300 rooms. So yeah, that house housed the family that really built the village as you see it now, and certainly the 4th Earl Fitzwilliam from 1782 onwards built Elsecar as a model village, industrial village with a coal mine and steelworks, etc. But I'm going to leave it, I think I'm going to leave it there, because we're on about 23 minutes now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk back up to the top of this lane. So I'm not going to film that, but I'm going to start filming from that little cottage that was at the entrance to this estate. So at nearly 24 minutes, I'll say bye for now.